Hey you beautiful people, welcome back to a new video on our channel Read Travel Become. In this video, I'm going to recommend 5 books which will help you expand your mind. By expand your mind, I mean books that will help you to think. Thinking is just like exercise for your mind, just like you do exercise for your body. It helps you and your brain and your mental energies to grow. These 5 books are great recommendations because they're not very complex to read, like Thinking Fast and Slow and Sapiens and all those heavy dense books. These books are very easy to read. They're taken from different kinds of non-fiction domains. If you want to know how to pick up a non-fiction book, how I pick up a self-help book, I'm very choosy when it comes to picking any non-fiction book. You can see the video which I'm linking here in the I button. I've made a video about how I'm very choosy about picking a non-fiction book. So yeah, this is going to be a very interesting video. Any book you take from this list is going to add value to your life. Don't forget to like the video and make sure you watch the video till the end. You may never know which thought or fact may resonate with you and change the course of your life. So let's get started. So the first book in this list is called Into the Magic Shop by a neuroscientist, by a doctor called Dr. James Doty. Now what I like about this book is the way it starts. It starts with a bang, like it hooked me as soon as the book started. This is how the book started. So the doctor, the neurosurgeon, is basically performing a brain surgery on a little child. He's talking about how everybody around in the room, all the doctors which are present in the room, are very stressed about this particular surgery. It's a difficult surgery. While they're operating this child's brain, while they're doing the surgery, some anomaly happens and everybody goes into a panic state. Now, because this is a child, it is very important to have a nuanced approach. It is very important to take care of a lot of factors. So everybody around him was panicking. And now here he writes a sentence. He says that now in this danger situation, in this panic situation, all of the years of his medical study, all of the years he has spent studying a lot of medical practicing didn't come into practice at all. But something came into practice which he had learned when he was a 10-12-year-old kid, when he visited this particular magic shop. Basically, he just snapped out of that danger zone. He just calmed himself down. He just tried to fully be in the situation. He lost all of his temperament. He was able to successfully conduct the operation. Now, what exactly happened is talked about in this whole book. This book talks about his conversations with one particular woman called Ruth, who taught him ideas of mindfulness. She taught him how to control your mind, how to control your temperament, basically how to meditate, but in a very different way. Now because he is a neurosurgeon, he has talked about the benefits of mindfulness from a scientific perspective. He has tried to tone it down in a very easy way so that everybody can read it. So it's a very refreshing read. You will feel very nice while you're reading this book, and there are some paragraphs from the book which are very endearing of how compassionate you have to be. And all of the book boils down to one particular fact. He talks about how compassion is the biggest superpower any human being can have. Whenever you show compassion towards other people, whenever you show kindness towards other people, you're actually helping yourself more than the other person, because the kind of activity that happens in your brain is much more rewarding to you. I loved this book. It's not at all generic. You won't find the generic mindfulness practices in this book. It's got a story element to it, so it keeps you engaged, and there are some little paragraphs, pearls of wisdom, which you would love exploring. So that is my first recommendation, Into the Magic Shop. If you can hear the audiobook, I've heard some people listening to the audiobook as well. It's a very relaxing read as well. So you can definitely pick up this book if you want to explore this domain. Next on the list is a very quirky book. A few days back I was watching Lex Friedman's podcast. He brings in amazing people from different domains, and he was talking to this particular theoretical physicist, Michio Kaku. I don't know if you have heard about him. He's a very popular and very controversial theoretical physicist who talks about amazing ideas. He talks about teleportation, he talks about telepathy, he talks about time travel. So basically what he talks about is, he talks about all those science fiction concepts which are shown in movies like Star Trek and Star Wars movies, and he tries to examine if it is possible or not. Is intergalactic travel possible or not? Is time travel possible or not? So he's written this book called Physics of the Impossible, where he has broken down all of the physics concepts like being invisible and stuff like that, and he has basically boiled them down into a scientific study. What if this could happen? What if that could happen? So it's a very interesting read if you are into science fiction, if you are into space and exploration and those kind of things. It's a very good book. It's very entertaining. You would never feel that you are reading an academic thing. you would be feeling that you're reading some science fiction. I don't know how much of it is basically true or how much of it is proven, but he talks about all of those subconscious transfer, and he talks about implanting brain chips in your brain, and he talks about those laser theories where you can transfer your consciousness through lasers and stuff like that. He's like all this research is being going on. So yeah, this book is really good. He has written a lot of books, but I can personally recommend this book because I have read this book. So yeah, that would be my second recommendation, which would help you to think, because he's now breaking down science fiction concepts and teaching you how to think, teaching you how to break down a big concept into concepts which we can understand and explain. Next on the list is a very small book, small, concise, very, very to the point. It does not bullshit around at all. The book is called The Dip. It's written by Seth Godin. It's less than 100 pages if I'm not wrong. Very, very small book. But the concept of this book is very powerful. The concept would stay with me, I feel, because it's a very actionable concept. So the author talks about one particular concept called the dip. He always talks about this particular notion, right, that winners never quit and you just have to continue. But he talks about how to quit. Real winners quit all the time. He gives an argument that real winners know which battles to pick and which battles to not pick. It's very important to know what you are not meant for. Whenever you start doing a thing, you start doing a creative thing, academic thing, any kind of thing, you realize there's a certain dip which you have to cross to be the greatest. So that's why you have to understand where in the dip you are and if it's worth it to put all of your time and energy and money and everything into the dip. If you're doing something, you're not getting results, you should quit it by analyzing if it's worth it or not. How to do that, he has talked about in that book. He has given out some very, very basic principles if you want to understand when to quit. So if you want to know if you are in a dip, if you want to get out of the dip, when should you quit, you can definitely pick up this book. He also talks about how people settle for good enough than targeting for the best. When you are in a dip, you want to know whether this dip is good enough for me and whether I should put in more efforts to be a superstar at work. Next on the list is again a very quirky recommendation. It's very much like the book called Freakonomics, where the authors have taken simple concepts and tried to have fun with it. They've tried to analyze the thing in multiple different ways. So the book which I'm going to recommend is called How To by Randall Munro. It has got these quirky things which the author talks about. Let's say you want to take a selfie with a telescope, you want to take a high jump, you want to learn how to high jump, and very, very quirky different things. He talks about the science behind it. He talks about how these things can be thought in an eccentric way. I don't want to give out a lot from the book because all of the ideas are so refreshing. It's a very fun read, just to think about normal things in our life, but in a very different way, but in a very quirky way. The book is full of pictures, the book is full of hilarious little cartoons which will help you to think a lot, because I feel it's very important for our generation especially, in which there is a lot of information load out there and there's a certain way of doing things. The only people who are going to survive, the only people who are going to create an ecosystem of a difference are those people who are going to look at things in a very different way, because almost anything can be learned today, almost anything can be done in a certain way, but it's just how you look at things differently makes you a differentiator and creates a different identity for you. So that way this book is a great read. It will definitely help you nurture your thinking abilities. You'll try to look at things in different ways, you'll be more creative, and all of these things. So great recommendations. I had a blast reading this. I've not completed yet, long book, but I've read some chapters and I have a great time. Whenever you're feeling low, you can just couch through any of these chapters and have a fun ride basically. And the last book on the list is actually more of a self-help book. It's called Anatomy of a Breakthrough. This was recommended by Adam Grant, who is one of my favorite non-fiction writers. He has written books like Think Again, Originals, which I absolutely love, and he had recommended this book, so I picked up this book and I'm currently reading it. I'm not finished, but from whatever I've read, this book talks about how to get unstuck in life, how to understand if you are stuck. So he talks about this internal resistance which we have to do things, and he talks about how to understand whether you are stuck or not and how to get out of it. He has given out numerous real life examples of people who have become unstuck. So he's given out examples and tried to explain these case studies. I like these kind of books where there's a relatability factor also. They're just not preaching you, they're just not telling you to do things. And he's talked about people you already know. He's talked about companies, he talked about people, athletes, and many different genres. So that way it's a good self-help book. It's a great read. It's not very boring. doing, it helps you to think in a very different way. It helps you think about your own life. Whenever you're reading any new learning, it will help you to think about your own life. That is what is a good book for me, when it makes me think about my personal life and whether those concepts resonate with me or not. So yeah, that was my recommendation. So yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you like all of these recommendations, you read them. If you have read any of these, do let me know in the comment section. I want to know what your thoughts are. And thank you so much for watching the video till here. Make sure you like the video and share this video. That's all for this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.